In the US, you're probably familiar with the big players, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. But in Europe, one of the names that resonates is TUI. In addition to being a ground and air operator, they're also a cruise line. Now, with the rest of the cruise industry mostly on hold last year, TUI resumed passenger sailings last summer. So how did they do it? And what procedures did they put in place to do it safely, responsibly, and still deliver the cruise experience that passengers were expecting? And how did that also change their own model of cruising? My conversation with CEO Wybcke Meier. I know you were started back in 2007 as a joint venture between TUI AG and Royal Caribbean. Tell me the history of that a little bit.
Yeah, as you said, it's a joint venture of the second largest cruise company, Royal Caribbean, and the German tour operator TUI. And TUI Cruises is focused on the German-speaking market. And since then, we have a very modern fleet. Our fleet comprises of 7 vessels and of 6 recently new-built vessels. And since 2014, we added every year a new-built vessel to our fleet. And we have a total lower berth of 17,800. And we have been sailing successfully here in Germany or for the German market, and are the ranking number 2 in the German-speaking market.
So tell me how TUI was able to pivot to be able to move forward in a responsible way, and what steps you're taking now, essentially to get ready to get ready.
We were always of the opinion that on a cruise ship where you have health and hygiene protocols and you have outbreak prevention plans, you have sanitation in different and stronger ways than you find it in other ways of tourism and traveling. So we gathered at that time a team of experts, virologists, epidemiologists, our team here to see what can be done, what needs to be adapted to make cruising possible. And then we said, what can we learn? What have we learned how the virus spreads? And the first thing was that less is more. Less occupancy is one thing what can solve some issues. And then, of course, we developed a very comprehensive health and hygiene program. And then at the second phase, we needed to convince also the local authorities if this is appropriate to offer a cruise in these days. For German customers, we offered blue cruises, and we said we have a ship and we have lower occupancy than normal. So keeping the distance is easy implemented on board of a ship, and we have all these additional protocols. And so it was end of July when we first set sail here in Hamburg. Got the approval for that blue cruise, no port of call, just a few days,
a cruise to nowhere.
A cruise to nowhere. We phrased it blue cruise because we sounds a bit better and our ships are blue. And we had a good success. On the first cruise, we really met our loyal customers, and they were very happy to be back on board. They needed to, of course, be disciplined. They needed to wear a mask where distance keeping wasn't possible. You need to live with less occupancy. We decided not to exceed 60%, and we also decided to concentrate on balcony cabins and suites. That there is always that all customers have access to really fresh air on board of a ship. This is, to my mind, this is a key number one. Then it's of course the testing strategy, and really to educate the crew on board. And we also have a lot of restaurants where dinner or lunch or breakfast is served at the table anyhow. And we just needed to take out some of the tables and some seats at the bars. And then everyone we all have learned since March was applied on board. And of course, with regards to activities, it is a bit limited. Contact sports like football or basketball is not possible, but anything else is possible on board as well.
What lessons did you learn? And then what lessons did you learn in terms of your business model, which had to be changed as well, since you were operating at a lower capacity?
what was missing on these blue cruises or cruises to nowhere was, of course, the revenue of shore excursions. There was none. But of course, we could see that our passengers, instead of going ashore, they stayed on board and they probably spent some more money at bars or for wellness or beauty treatments and these kind of things. With regards to the entertainment, of course, we needed to change the schedule and the program as well. So we haven't got any big cast on board performing musicals because we only are allowed to have 4 people at the same time on stage. So we have chosen more artists, singers, songwriters, and we also implemented new concept like different kind of lectures, and also giving them a new experience like learning languages and these things. And what we found is that the customers were very satisfied from the very first moments. And as I mentioned, we had a phased return to service, and at the later stage, mid of September, we also managed to have have the first cruise sailing out of Greece, where we included shore excursions as well. So that was the most normal cruise we offered this year, flying to Heraklion and then bringing the passengers on board. And then we had 3 port of calls. And there we also offered shore excursions.
Are they also tested during the cruise?
Not yet, because we only offered the shorter cruises so far. But if we go on a longer cruises, we would definitely go to the concept and test also on the cruise.
What's changing in that dynamic as you begin to look forward to 2021 as to which ports you can go to or how you'll go to these ports differently?
Is it a risk area or is it not a risk area? How high is the infection rate in the certain country and so on? So I expect, at least for 21, to really be flexible and to be transparent with all local authorities, with port authorities, and also the service provider, to see that any kind of protocol needs to be adjusted to the specific situation you can find in one or the other port. And maybe, and this is also what we have experienced now, and maybe you also need to have a customer who's also a little bit more flexible, that it is that a port can be, that you're not for sure can call any port which is published in the itinerary. So I think these are the things we need to deal with next year, but I'm also of the opinion that a good test strategy prior to embarkation is the best one can do.
Mifsud Brothers is one of Malta's oldest companies, founded in the 1800s. It services many of the ships that sail to Malta. I spoke with Ivan Mifsud, the managing director, to find out how they were able to pivot, adapt, and welcome the ships back. As we're living in this almost post-pandemic world, as the world is starting to emerge from this, one of the things that comes into focus is port management. It's how do you manage your resources in a destination that are sustainable, that deal with all the different epidemiological issues, that deal with safety and health, and that also allow people to have a great experience and a genuine experience. So how have you adjusted with the cruise lines to make that happen?
Okay, just to put a perspective on things, our first experience was not a normal port of call, but a small embarkation of 60 guests. I would say it was probably the first fly cruise operation post-COVID. We had 58 guests flying in from Germany, and we had to transport them from the airport to the port and check them in. I must say, I mean, having been used to checking in about 1,600 people every week for 6 months, this was so different in so many ways. We had to, first of all, respect all the protocols that were given to us by the principal. Just to give you a little idea of what I'm talking about, and these are the protocols of the principal. Then we had the protocols of the port, again, a big volume. we have our own protocols, and our protocols also factor in the protocols of the sites and venues that we visit. I had people dressed up with special uniforms, with a Feel Safe logo, cleaning absolutely everywhere that was touched by people. We followed again the protocols, as in on the coaches. We had just 15 guests in all, and we zigzagged them on the coach, spacing them out, and also they had to keep the same place on the return. The coaches were fumigated before use and again afterwards. Everyone was wearing masks, sanitization before boarding and when they come off, and then back when they get on board. So yeah, that worked out very well.
I'm presuming Malta was really the test case.
Well, I think this was, the fly cruise operation was. I have to say that MSC had been calling they started calling to Malta about 4 or 5 weeks prior to this. So of course, we also saw what they did. Malta, in this case, was a port of call. So they were operating what we refer to as bubble tours, that basically no passengers could go off on their own. The only way for them to visit the island was to go on the shore excursions, which were offered by the ship. And again, they had to be not more than 15. They had to follow all the protocols that I just mentioned. And again, taken to places where they would not meet with too many other people.
At the time that MSC was calling, or TUI was doing other ports, they were operating ships at maybe 40 or 50% capacity. They had the bubble. They said they had the bubble,
yes,
as you said, in terms of no one could do unescorted trips off the ship. They had all these other rules in place. That was then. We're now coming in the next couple of months into your strong summer high season. Assuming cruising comes back, what limits are you placing on ship capacity, number of ships in Malta at any one time, and have you redefined your shore excursions in any way, shape, or form to make them even more open, assuming people practice the right protocols?
Okay, three very interesting questions. So the port is, well, let's say the port doesn't necessarily tell us everything that they have in mind, but I am sure from what I've learned from them. I actually had lunch with the CEO just a couple of days ago. They will be segregating the ships to make sure that there is little interaction between passengers. Actually, not little, zero interaction between passengers from one ship and the other. As regards to the capacity of the ships itself, this again depends a lot on the cruise industry. From my initial talks with one of our principals, who is an important principal of ours because they are the ones that home port out of Malta, it could be that they may start at throwing a figure like, just to give an example, they may start at 60, and as people's confidence improves because of the vaccine and also because things, hopefully the virus will be stamped out completely out of the system, then they will start increasing the percentages all the way up to 75, 80, 85. To answer your other question regarding shore excursions, we went back to the drawing board. We literally took a clean canvas and redesigned all our tours, all based on this bubble concept. I think it's time that we in the shore excursion, ground handling business, do things differently. I think also the cruise lines need to do that. The days of having 40, 45 people on a coach may be coming to an end, and I think people nowadays love to do their own thing. They want to feel that they're exploring. I think that's definitely the way forward.
I'm Peter Greenberg. I'll see you next time on another edition of Global Cruise Report.